There's a new fish on Chicago area menus, and I will not be trying it. Hi there, everyone. I'm Jeff in Chicago, and this is Plain English, where JR and I help you upgrade your English with current events and trending topics. Today's lesson is number 492, and JR has uploaded the full lesson, including the transcripts, to plainenglish.com/492. On today's lesson, a new marketing campaign has introduced Copi, a protein-rich, low-fat fish that is already appearing on menus and in fish shops in the Chicago area. Now, I like fish. I had a piece of cod for dinner last night, but Copi will not be on the menu at my house. I'll explain why on today's lesson. We'll also talk about the English phrase overrun with, and we have a quote of the week from a television journalist I used to watch as a kid. Before we dive into the content, I wanted to remind you that we are approaching a milestone. Episode 500 is scheduled for September 5th, 2022. Now that's a Monday. Now 500 lessons, 500 podcast episodes is a big milestone, and I want all of you to be part of the celebration. So I've prepared a page at plainenglish.com/500. And when you're done listening to today's lesson, go there. Go to plainenglish.com/500 to learn about the live stream, the giveaway, and the video we are putting together. plainenglish.com/500. Now we're ready for today's lesson. In the 1970s, fish farmers in southern U.S. states like Louisiana had a problem. The ponds they used to cultivate their fish and the wastewater ponds nearby were full of algae. So they looked to China for an innovative solution from Mother Nature. They knew that 4 species of carp in China ate a lot of algae. The fish farmers thought it was a match made in heaven. They had an algae problem. The carp in China ate algae. So they brought the carp to America to feed on the algae in their ponds. What could go wrong? A lot. The carp eventually escaped the ponds and entered the Mississippi River, where they encountered few natural predators. They also ate a lot of the plants and other fish in the ecosystem of America's inland rivers. Ever since, they have been creeping upward toward the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes are the second biggest freshwater deposit on Earth. They make up 21% of the planet's fresh water. They are also a big part of American and Canadian life, including tourism, specifically boating, fishing, and other types of recreation. Asian carp threatens the Great Lakes for several reasons. First, it could disrupt the ecosystem much as it has done in the rivers and smaller lakes, harming native fish. That's bad in and of itself. But it also harms the fishing industry, which is a big part of the Great Lakes economy. If the Asian carp get into the Great Lakes, it could reduce the available population of fish such as whitefish, walleye, perch, and trout native to the area. Asian carp has already crowded out native fish in the Illinois, Missouri, and Ohio rivers. Recreational boaters and fishermen are afraid of Asian carp too. That's because this is an especially disruptive fish. It can grow to 45 kilograms, almost 100 pounds, and it jumps. In fact, this fish is known for jumping out of the water and crashing into boats and fishermen. I saw one video in which a carp jumps out of the water and breaks a girl's jaw. So imagine you're out on the water for a quiet morning of fishing, and a 40-kilogram fish jumps out unexpectedly and crashes into your boat. That's not a good situation, even if you don't have to go to the hospital. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has tried several methods to slow the Asian carp's progress. They've tried poison, they've tried physical barriers, they've tried sound barriers, they've tried just catching them and removing them. They've even tried electrified barriers that are designed to kill the Asian carp as it swims by. Nothing has worked so far. The carp is continuing its northbound march. You see where I am going with this. The state of Illinois, my home state, borders the Mississippi River. The Illinois River, which cuts diagonally across the state, is overrun with Asian carp. And the state of Illinois has decided that if the Asian carp doesn't have any natural predators in the water, maybe we, the residents of the prairie state, maybe we should eat Asian carp. If you have seen a picture of this fish, or especially if you have seen a YouTube video of this fish attacking a boat, then you can have only one possible reaction. No, thank you. Recognizing this, the state hired a marketing agency to improve the fish's reputation. The agency invented a new name, Copi, C-O-P-I. Copi is short for copious, which is someone's idea of a sick joke. Copious means in abundance, or there's a lot of it. Local chefs aren't quite sure what to make of this new fish. The Asian carp, the Copi, is especially bony, so it's difficult to fillet. One restaurant is grinding it up and putting it in a sandwich. Some residents are tentatively embracing Copi, A few are eating it almost as a civic duty. If this is required to stop the carp's march toward the Great Lakes, some residents reasoned, then they'll do their part and eat it. That's wishful thinking. Fishermen who would catch the Asian carp for restaurants or for fish meal would naturally focus on the biggest individual fish, those 100-pounders. But if fishing is going to slow the species, then the smaller fish need to be caught too. And for fishermen, those smaller ones are just not worth it. Meanwhile, the effort to stop Asian carp continues. The states surrounding the Great Lakes are funding a new barrier in Joliet, Illinois, that will include electrification, bubbles, sound, and other barriers. This fish is disgusting. I know. We eat a lot of things that aren't exactly appetizing in their natural state. But I am posting a video in the Facebook group so that you can understand what I'm talking about here. This is not a nice looking fish. This is not a fish that minds its own business in the water. This is a kind of fish that will give you nightmares. So check out plainenglish.com/Facebook to see that video if you dare. Now, those of you in Europe know a different kind of carp. This Asian carp is somewhat healthy. It's not a bottom feeder like the carp in Europe. It's low in fat and high in protein, but I don't care. I'm still not eating it. Maybe JR will try it and tell me how it tastes. Today's expression is overrun with. We use this phrase in the passive voice. One thing is overrun with another thing. We use overrun when something unwanted fills a place quickly. You always have a situation where there's a place, either a physical place or somewhere online, say. And in that place, something is unwanted, something that came from somewhere else, and there's a lot of it. The Mississippi River and other connecting rivers are overrun with Asian carp. The Asian carp is unwanted. It eats the local fish. It has no predators, and it attacks fishermen, among other things. But precisely because it has no natural predators in those rivers, it's filling the rivers up. There's a lot of these carp. Just watch the video. So we say that the rivers are overrun with Asian carp. So in this example, the first thing is the place. The second thing is the unwanted visitor. The rivers are overrun with Asian carp. Before the pandemic, we did a lesson about tourist hotspots. That was lesson 99. These places were overrun with tourists. There were too many of them. They were not all welcome. You probably recognize the names: Venice, Barcelona, cities like that. Europe is the world's biggest tourist destination, but some cities are much more popular than others. Instagram has not helped, as everyone chases the most popular Instagram backgrounds. Venice was so overrun with tourists that it started closing a fence around its historic center, keeping out tourists if it got too crowded. Barcelona was so overrun with Airbnb rentals that locals couldn't afford their rent. Those that could afford the rent had to contend with parties at all hours of the night. Mount Everest was also overrun with inexperienced hikers. We talked about that in lesson 161. Instagram also figured in that unwelcome trend. Remember what happened there? The government of Nepal started selling more and more tourist passes for that famous hike, and many tour companies started relaxing their standards, allowing less experienced hikers to take the journey. So the path up Mount Everest was overrun with inexperienced hikers, people taking unnecessary risks for the perfect Instagram background. There were way too many of those inexperienced hikers, and they were not welcome. A lot of people got pandemic pets. Stuck at home with extra time and few distractions, people adopted dogs and cats. Not all of these people thought this through. A pet can live 10, 15 years. A pandemic lasts less than that. And now, unfortunately, a lot of shelters are overrun with pets. Their pandemic parents had to go back to work, and now the shelters can't handle all these pets. Elon Musk believes Twitter is overrun with fake accounts. He believes there are way too many fake accounts that are all ruining the user experience. He is using this as a pretext for canceling his agreement to buy that social media company. Twitter is suing him, as we discussed back in lesson 490. A recent decision set a 5-day trial for October. Twitter said it has been overrun with unreasonable data and document requests from Elon Musk's lawyers and bankers. Today's quote of the week goes like this: "Everyone wants to live on top of the mountain, but all the happiness and growth occurs while you're climbing it." That's from Andy Rooney, a journalist. He had the last few minutes of a really popular weekly news show called 60 Minutes. He had a big head of white hair and big, bushy white eyebrows, and a distinctive voice, too. I remember that. Andy Rooney, his name was. He was on 60 Minutes every week until he was 92. And one time he said, "Everyone wants to live on top of the mountain, but all the happiness and growth occurs while you're climbing it." Well, that's it for the audio portion of today's lesson. Now remember, this was lesson number 492, so we're creeping closer and closer to that big milestone number. And I want to celebrate it with all of you. So plainenglish.com/500 is where you're going to find all the details for how to be part of the celebration. Now, if it were just me planning this, it would be kind of a lame party. But JR is involved. He's closely advising me on how to celebrate this milestone. So here's what we have planned. We are going to live stream the audio and video, obviously, on Facebook and Instagram. We are going to have a giveaway. But the best part is we are going to make a video with all of you. And I really want as many of you as possible on this video. And it's simple. Right from plainenglish.com/500, you can record a video telling us where you listen, what you like the best about Plain English, what your favorite episode is, whatever you want to say. I'm making it so easy for you. You don't have to download anything. You don't have to email me a file. Just tap a button and record the video. It couldn't be easier. I do want to hear from you, and I want you to help JR and me celebrate this milestone lesson. So go to plainenglish.com/500 and you can be part of the celebration. All the details are there already. The page is already up. plainenglish.com/500. Go there now, record a video for us, and you will be part of the fun. plainenglish.com/500.